Welcome to the Queer Spirit Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Venegoni. Here we have conversations with artists, healers, and activists who enliven the LGBTQ communities and who empower our queer spirits to flourish. Before we start the interview, I'd like to offer you a gift. I work with many queer folks who struggle with self-esteem, self-acceptance, and confidence. And I get it. Growing up queer is no cakewalk. Living in a world filled with homophobia and oppression can take its toll. Having the strength to be true to yourself can be a challenge, but you can change that. So, if you'd like support taking the first few steps, head over to my website and grab your free copy of The Self-Confident Queer. Just go to queerhealingjourneys.com/confident. This guide will walk you through 3 simple steps to help you begin to build your self-worth and confidence today. So head over to queerhealingjourneys.com/confident and download your free guide today. Okay, now on with the show. My guest today is Ocean Zotique. O is a yogi and priestess committed to helping themselves and others release attachment to fear and vibrate at a radiant frequency of embodiment and joy. O is a healer and artist working internationally in the media of social practice, vibration, yoga, dreamwork, and reiki. Their dissertation with the State University of New York centers around flow psychology as a phenomenon. Today we chat about O's journey from a classically trained composer and music teacher to delving into the study and practice of vibrational alchemy. Ocean shares how the practices of deep listening, developed by Pauline Oliveros, lead to the paths of dream yoga and asana, which they incorporate into their vibrational alchemy work. Ocean shares how the practices of deep listening, developed by Pauline Oliveros, led to the paths of dream yoga and asana, which they incorporate into their vibrational alchemy work. Find O online at zotique.org. That's ZOTIQUE.org. Hi, Ocean. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Nick. Such a pleasure to be with you today.
Thank you for being here. So I wanted to start out by having you share a little bit about how music first came into your life, or how you came to meet music, because I know that that sort of is the foundation for a lot of the work that you're doing now. So I wonder if you could share that story with us.
Absolutely. I could certainly take many hours and days and years with this, and I have, but the shortest and most succinct version of the story really has to do with the concept of harmony. And I think even when I was 4 or 5, I picked up piano lessons, and I really gravitated towards the tactile aspect of the piano, and learning actually from my mother at first, and then taking lessons and being very engrossed in musical instruments of various kinds. I began taking lessons on like a different instrument every year. So I seriously committed into my music practice. And over time, after I got into undergraduate music studies, other forces started pulling me away from my practice room and out more into the community in a way that for many years felt disconcerting. I felt like I was diverting from an appropriate classical path or track of some kind. And at first it was manifesting as teaching, and I really enjoyed that for a few years as well. Around the time of my Saturn returns, a lot of spiritual reintegration and energetic reintegration started happening for me, where I actually began shifting this concept of, in a way, bringing harmony from my inner source out and through it into the space around me. And the space around me kind of effortlessly shifted from being the container of a music classroom for children, and it turned into more like the internet and like a larger community. And so the only thing I can think to call this is vibrational alchemy, because I remember the recent past of being that like beloved role of a child's music teacher, and how much enjoyment and transformation could come from even those beautiful plastic recorders and those lovely tiny little xylophones. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
such a opportunity for community art making, really, if you really, as I really reflect deeply. And I'm so grateful for all these experiences, but most of all, kind of excited to expand my practice more and more in ways that are both like aesthetic and also therapeutic, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Beautiful. I love how you refer to this practice or concept of vibrational alchemy because when, just on a basic scientific level, what music is and what sound is it's just vibration. It's different physical objects that are vibrating, whether it be our vocal cords or whether it be air moving through an instrument or a part of an instrument vibrating or a string vibrating. So that's what vibration is. But then there are also, we think about, quote unquote, good vibes, right? And having good energy and the way that we have resonance with a person in terms of our chemistry. But resonance is also just something that's happening with our voice or with an instrument and that kind of thing. So I really love how you're working with this overall umbrella concept of vibrational alchemy. So, how did you start moving from sound and music into yoga? Did the dream piece come first, or did asana yoga come first, or what was next for you?
I was happily enjoying offering musical learning to children for several years. And at the same time, I was yearning to continue my studio art practice of composition, which is where I did my undergraduate. And one of the things that nourished me deeply throughout the process of being part of a school community in a teacher role was also a practice called deep listening, which was developed by a pioneering sound artist and humanitarian, Pauline Oliveros.
Mm-hmm.
And three of the deep pillars of deep listening, in which I got certified in 2016, the last year that Pauline was with us, the material plane, before she passed away, were sonic meditation, dreams, and Tai Chi. These were three practices that deeply informed the training. And for me, as a former music student, I merely knew the legends of who Pauline was as a composer, as a student of Chinese medicine, as a professor, and just looked up to her so very much. And in the process, I met another enormously important teacher, Pauline's wife, Ione. And Ione is still quite active in the community as a dream keeper in the lineage of Jung. And she taught me some practices around dream journaling, and it challenged me. It was so elusive to remember.
Mm-hmm.
And the frustration, especially as a classically trained musician, the frustration of not being able to do it drove me insane for a year at least. And finally, I somehow learned to let go of the attachment to dream recall and simply let it flow. And the moment of channeling my Dreamtime experiences into my journal effortlessly was so exciting and really opened a lot of doors for me to begin trusting my intuition more and more, and became a really fun practice that informed a lot of art making. And ultimately, after 3 or 4 years of dream journaling consistently, I found myself, so whether I wanted to or not, like pretty well versed in archetypes after looking in dream dictionaries and looking back into the Red Book and many other resources from dream psychology, like Gaston Bachelard and other sort of feminist resources as well. I had amassed a bit of a data bank of what archetypes often mean, like stress dreams about teeth falling out, for instance. I just had it with me after all of this. And so I began having opportunities to give feedback to people about their dreams. And it brought me into more of a healer archetype where I was able to provide service to grown-ups in the community, right? No longer in a school teacher role. And so I still love the dream practices. And now that I've unfolded deeper into my research and my yoga work, dreams are still very important. And also, there are other tools that we can use.
So, what do you think it was making it challenging for you initially to recall your dreams?
So I have to give reference to Ione, my teacher. And if people would like to check out her amazing book, it's called Listening in Dreams. And in this book and in her teachings, we have a big concept called lifting off judgment. And so for me, many aspects of my spiritual life, my spirit, and the way that I grew up in a bit of a restrictive society or culture, and also the highly structured aspects of my training artistically resulted in a lot of judgment, I feel, wanting to get things correct. And in the space of dream journaling, there really is no wrong thing. I discovered, the secret is whatever mark gets put onto the dream journal is meant to be there, even if it's a nonverbal scribble. I've been analyzing the notebooks of Basquiat, and he's got these wonderful marks. Sometimes there's text, sometimes there's literally just marks.
Yeah.
And it's such a good opportunity to lift off judgment. And so I kept having this limiting thought. Why am I not remembering? Why am I not remembering? Why am I not remembering my dreams? And finally, I learned to lift off the judgment and expectation of wanting to lucid dream or wanting to remember dreams. And at that point, ironically, all of the dream information was able to flow, and I kept journaling for several years.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'm curious if you had a similar experience or insight that I've had with dreams. You know, a few years ago when I first started studying with my hypnotherapy and shamanic teacher, she had us keep a dream journal the whole time that we were in the hypnotherapy class, because a big part of the work can involve dreams. And, you know, I've recalled my dreams off and on through life and never really thought a whole lot about it, and had never recorded them. But when I first started recording them, as, you know, she asked for homework, and I did it for maybe 3 months or something like that initially, I realized that it was almost like exercising a muscle, and that the more that I put effort and intention into remembering them, the easier it got and the stronger that muscle memory, or the memory muscle, I guess, became, because I went from remembering maybe a few dreams a week to remembering up to 4 dreams in one night, maybe 5 nights a week. And it almost got to a point after about 6 or 7 months where it felt like too much for me. It was just like, this is too much information. It's too much work. You know, I would get up in the morning and I would, you know, sit on my computer and type everything out for like over 30 minutes sometimes, just remembering everything that came up. But I'm curious if you have a similar experience to that, or if your experience of going from not remembering to remembering was different.
Yeah, thank you so much for that experience that you mentioned. And definitely the first thing that I feel connected to share is remembering that dreams are the source of our creativity. They are the raw material of our creativity. And I say that as a dream work person. I also say that as a researcher in creativity flow state. It's our raw material, and absolutely, like, what we place our attention on grows. And so there could absolutely come a point when that attention grows and maybe pushes our comfort zone and brings us into a place where we don't feel in balance with the rest of our daily life activities.
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely been there. I've definitely reached saturation or like oversaturation with dream journaling. And it's a really big opportunity for me to lift off judgment about whether or not I have to record all the dream information that is being remembered.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but it's tricky. It's kind of the lift off on the other side. Like you were saying, like at first there's this big judgment. Why am I not remembering? Why can't I fly in my dreams? Why can't I breathe underwater in my dreams? I yearn so deeply for this, and I've been there. And then after some time, I mean, we all, I feel, have the ability to connect to our dreams. I agree with you that, like in yoga philosophy, one might say that the process of svadhyaya, or like conscious reflection, can clarify smriti, memory, which is one of the five functions of the mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so the more we do svadhyaya and dream recall and journal about any phenomenon, really, the more we might be able to clarify our smriti, our memory and details. What color was the Persian rug in the back of the tent in your dream?
Mm-hmm.
But then we have so much clarity of memory over the phenomenon that we wake up, and it could take us an hour of work just to get all the details out. So no, I totally been there, and I empathize with that predicament.
So, what is dream yoga as you know it for our listeners who may not have heard of dream yoga or know what that really is? Because most people in America, at least when they hear yoga, they think about the stretching exercises.
Totally. And thank you, because I love talking about all the different yogas that are possible.
Mm-hmm.
Dream yoga has actually been studied through Dzogchen and other spiritual traditions of Southeast Asia, I'll just say, for many centuries. And one of my favorite writers of around the topic of dream yoga, specifically in the Tibetan side of things, has been Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche,
Mm-hmm.
and his book, The Tibetan Yogas of Dream and Sleep, as well as Effortless Creativity. And I found all of that profoundly nourishing. For me, I am a dreamer, I'm a dream keeper of sorts, and I'm very involved in yoga. And so dream yoga is simply the space in which I feel excited to work with the third eye, to work yogically the third eye development, active dreaming, things similar to what would be called hypnotherapy or yoga nidra of the divine sleep. I've taken training around some of these types of things, neurolinguistic programming, journeying. And so it's that space where we get to drop in. I mean, on a practical level, it's that space where we get to rest, drop into our parasympathetic nervous system, get rid of some of those quibbly body things, close our eyes probably, and dream into other potentialities or other states of being, other feelings that we are not typically placing our attention on a day-to-day basis, but which are part of us as interdimensional beings. We may have the opportunity to access information or to access any types of expansion through these practices. And so that's what I like to call dream yoga, simply because I dream a lot and I do yoga a lot. And I certainly have enormous respect for the Tibetan and like Indian dream yoga, ancient dream yoga, we could say. So that's kind of how I relate to all of it. And lastly, it's something that I've been reflecting a lot on, actually, is that dreaming is a survival skill right now. The ability for us to communally dream forward into a not yet existent plane is a form of astral projection into the higher timeline of our community, of our planet. And at this moment, when we are safe enough, maybe we're safe enough to dream into what it's going to take moving forward to be fully vaccinated and or to be moving a little bit more freely or differently on this planet. And so one of the things that I've been channeling into a lot lately, again, is this message keeps coming to me from my guides, that our communal dreaming is also our collective survival skill. So we're dreaming into this next step as a culture, as a species, as a planet. And the more we potentially hone our creativity, our imagination, our listening and witnessing of each other's raw materials of creativity, then we may have the opportunity to collaborate into a more just and pleasurable society.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few thoughts that have been really coming through.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like there's something juicy and powerful there to explore more, like creating some kind of setting where that can be a group intention and allow that to grow.
Yeah, we're going to activate a performance art space with possibly around this intention. I think
Mm-hmm.
in a couple of months, it's kind of in process of being organized.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that energy, I'm happy that it resonates for you as well. It's just been coming through a lot.
It's like dream futurism in a way.
Dream futurism. Yeah, well, the future is now, and we made it. You know, this gratitude and this relief that I feel
Mm-hmm.
for being healthy and safe, healthy enough and safe enough. So, in a way, these ways of being that most serve moving forward from this enormous experience. And even the word trauma in German is nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, having witnessed this pandemic thus far and had my experience with it, I'm just barely beginning to feel, if it had been a dream, it would have been just starting to move my body and realize, wow, you know, what was all of this? And not to minimize the pandemic or say that it's over. I know that it's not over, but those powerful tools and ways of being around dream journaling and staying open to creativity and not being scared or having judgment feel very up right now and
Mm-hmm.
exciting. And that ability to lift off judgment just is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Ione.
Yeah, shout out to Ione. I hope she's listening
Yeah,
soon.
yeah. So I'm curious if you see a connection with the vibrational alchemy in dream yoga. Like, I'm sitting here thinking, do dreams have a vibration?
Yes.
What is the vibration of dreams? You know, is the vibration of dreams the astral plane? Or, you know, is it the neocortex vibrating away, you know, or is it that in combination? You know, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, so that it's possible to listen in our dreams. In addition to visual memory and tactile memory, there are the sonic components of our dream memories.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is really delightful and can be really potent to stay aware of. It's really exciting for me, sometimes in my art practice, to remember melodies and sounds and fragments out of my dream time and record that and play with that as material
Mm-hmm.
if it feels right. So I think that there is a listening, there is a aural, like with the ears, with listening component in our dreams while we're sleeping and in our imagination, in our overall third eye
Mm-hmm.
process. And then I also like to imagine, I've been reflecting deeply lately on the chakras
Mm-hmm.
because I also offer Reiki trainings and sessions for folks who are in need of it and who approach me. And one thing that I imagined in terms of the vibrations of the third eye and the vibrations of all the chakras really is a vintage cassette tape. And so I imagine that energetically, the chakras or energy centers, if we prefer to say energy centers, go through the experience of the day and the events of the day take place. And that is for me the signal, the audio signal that you would hear by pressing play on a cassette tape. And at the end of the day, one reaches the end of the tape and it's time for sleep. It's time to rest. The body is releasing toxins, which in Sanskrit in the yoga world would be called mala.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just imaginatively reflecting on what might be happening vibrationally. And one vision that came to me was, what if we simply pressed rewind and all of the vrittis, all of the little stress bubbles and different experiences of all kinds sort of got rewinded. And so the vibrations I'm imagining in this vision, all of the little experiences that we feel, and imagine how your heart chakra feels after getting an email, and then how your third eye feels like recording a podcast and then all of these various experiences throughout the day. Imagine it being played backwards during your sleep time. And so that seems like a lot to visualize and think about, is your chakras like spinning backwards and unspooling every energetic experience of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like that visual. So if that resonates with anybody, then enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I'm also just thinking about, and I'm just wondering out loud here with you, philosophizing with you, but just like the dream in and of itself, not just the sounds within a dream, but the dream in and of itself as a particular vibration. You know, like there are different, I know like people who work with sound healing on a scientific level, like Dr. Jeffrey Thompson and Steve Halpern, they talk about different sound frequencies that help the brainwave get into certain states. And there's, you know, some that they say are helpful for the dream state. And I think about like the vibration of that as almost like a foundational wave that dreams just float upon, you know, these waves, and, you know, how we tap into that and how maybe through the third eye taps into that, you know, if we're going to talk about energy centers, that's the frequency or the vibration that moves through us, as well as maybe another way to think about vibrational alchemy and dream yoga and that kind of thing too.
Certainly, like the acoustical properties of pitched sound, for instance, inducing a specific hertz frequency out of a bowl, like sound baths, I find really beautiful. And I have a set of chakra bowls, as they're called, or the 7 bowls that correspond to the 7 major energy centers. Of course, there are other energy accounting systems, I like to say, but the 7 biggies are still there: the root, you know, the sacral, the solar plexus, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown. And so there definitely are sounds and frequencies that are thought to connect significantly to those points. But in addition to that, I find that when used with intention, any sound has the possibility to connect to an energy. And people may be familiar with the concept of cleansing with sound. If people prefer to use, I know that some people would use sage or smudge of some kind, whatever may be appropriate in that practice. But one thing that I really enjoy is using sound, and clapping is something that I don't need any special knowledge to utilize. Yeah, as I'm sure, I think you probably have seen it before. I mean, clapping can be a very potent way to just like really cleanse a room. In terms of sound healing. So my training is, I'm aware of some of the psychometric and sort of psychoactive aspects of acoustics, psychoacoustic components, but my research background with that hat put on is in phenomenological inquiry. So for me, I tend to look through data about the way that people feel across different experiences, and reading about, for instance, people's experience with a sound healing, and noticing what felt effective and what didn't feel effective. And that's one way of inquiry that I find as a qualitative researcher can be very potent, and maybe in partnership with a quantitative researcher could create a collaborative research project where specific tones and specific sort of like gathering up possibilities and opportunities, and then that might actually serve for future research, that people who want to run experiments basically can run like quantitative experiments. But not my focus. I'm very fascinated by it, but it's not my focus to do quantitative research.
Yes. So can you share with us a person, practice, or experience that has supported your queer spirit to flourish?
Wow. One practice that deeply surprised me and rooted me and supported me through some incredibly challenging moments has actually been forest bathing. And by removing my shoes, if possible, and walking along a path, keeping my fingers and hands open and spread towards the earth, sort of turned out a little bit in a sort of a tadasana or mountain pose. And then slowly walking and bringing somatic awareness through my experience, and listening and watching and taking delight in where I am and my movement, the movement of my body and the sounds around me.
Mm-hmm.
I've really found a lot of beautiful solace in that practice and a lot of surprise, because I always knew that taking a walk in the woods would reset me or make me feel better. But the more I slowed down into it and tuned in, it has deeply rooted me, if you pardon the pun,
Mm-hmm.
to be with the trees.
Great. That's one of my favorite things too.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
What's one place where you might like to go forest bathing?
Well, here in the Bay Area, I like going up to Marin or Sonoma County, where there's a lot of redwoods and lush green places near the ocean and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I don't have a chance, I'll just head over to Golden Gate Park. There's some nice places there.
Wow, incredible tree life over on the West Coast.
Yeah.
Do you practice with the green man or the green spirit?
I don't know. I don't have a particular practice or relationship with the green man in that way. Yeah.
I remember that came out in one of my experiences with you when I took Reclaim the Power of You.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you brought me on a journey. And one of my first guides that I ever got was the green spirit, the green man, and he was a shapeshifter.
Mm-hmm.
So that felt deeply connected to trees as well.
Yeah. So, Ocean, where can people find you and learn more about what you're up to and your work and your offerings for the world?
These days, you can find me in the unceded Mohican and Lenape lands, now known as Hudson, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also find me on the internet at Instagram at Zotique, and my website, zotique.org. People have been finding me and connecting to my work and benefiting. And I'm so honored to continue doing that and remaining open to connecting with anybody who wants to or needs to resonate with all of this.
Great. Well, I'll have those links in the show notes so people can also find them there. Well, thank you for being here and talking with me about vibrational alchemy and dream yoga. It's been really lovely. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all that you do, Nick.
To find the resources we discussed today, find the show notes at thequeerspirit.com. And if you enjoyed the show, remember to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. This will help us reach and support more queer people all over. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.